Welcome to the Munro Review on CMAC, where it's all about connecting, sharing, and valuing the arts in the Central San Joaquin Valley. I'm Donald Munro. Tonight, we continue our summer road trip to various theater companies. So far, we've stopped at Warner's Theater to check in with Chanticleer Shakespeare Company, and then to Playhouse Fresno and Children's Musical Theater Works. And tonight, we are visiting a rehearsal for an indie production of The Birds, brought to us by local director Diego Sosa, which is why we are here at the Sunnyside High School auditorium. Plus, we've asked TMR reporter Doug Hoagland to schlep his way out in this broiling heat to talk about some of the interesting stories on his beat, including a new exhibition at the Fresno Art Museum and updates on Measure P. But first, let's check in on some of what we've been covering on MunroReview.com. Critic Heather Parrish really likes the play Goodnight Oscar at the Second Space Theater. It's anchored by a superb performance from Chase Stubblefield in the leading role. He plays a man named Oscar Levant, who in the late 1950s was a well-known pianist and actor known for his razor-sharp wit. The centerpiece of the play is an appearance on The Old Tonight Show starring Jack Parr. Heather calls it, quote, a deeply felt piece of character work that powers an already terrific production into must-see territory. We're going to be talking a little later with Doug about Chase Stubblefield and the reaction to the show. Heather also writes about an exciting development for the Tower District's Severance Building. It's under new ownership after a community benefactor partnered with the Fresno Music Academy and Arts. It looks like the first floor will be used for music and dance lessons, and the upstairs ballroom for theater, social dance, and concerts. Plus, be sure to check out Heather's Reader's Journal, a cultural arts books column. In the latest installment, she writes about Judi Dench, Shakespeare, Marilyn Monroe, and more. Before we move on to our interviews, I want to give a shout out for a new way to get a taste of the local arts scene. I'm doing a weekly segment called Arts Angle on KVPR FM 89.3. I give a quick rundown on news and events going on that weekend and beyond. It'll run 3 times daily on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. You can find the clips online at kvpr.org and, of course, at MunroReview.com. Now, let's get to our interviews. We're here at Sunnyside High School to talk to director Diego Sosa and actor Saren Lake about the new production of The Birds. All right, so we are here on the stage at Sunnyside High School with Diego, our director, and Saren, one of the actors in The Birds. Thanks for having us.
Of course, thanks for coming.
So you're doing this at Sunnyside
Yes.
High School, but it's not associated with the high school. This is an indie production.
Yes, so Sunnyside's not associated with the production. They're just sponsoring us to use the space and their technology, and it's been a wonderful collaboration.
Now, people in Fresno know you who are theater fans. You've been on stage a lot. Is being a director kind of your thing? Is that what you're working for?
Right now I'm at Fresno State getting my degree in acting, but recently I've started directing a lot around town and I love it. But my roots start back to performing for sure. But my plan right now is to finish up Fresno State, take a couple years, audition around town, around California, see what happens, and then I plan on applying for my master's in directing.
So I know that you really impressed our theater critic, Heather Parrish, with your production of Misery last summer. This is kind of your second summer in a row, and it's pretty uncommon for someone just to, like, I don't know, go rogue, or not go rogue, but, you know, do an indie production without a theater company.
Right.
What's that about?
So we're just a group of indie artists who come together when the right title comes to mind, when the right idea comes to mind. With Misery, it sprung off from my leads, Kelsey and Joe, who were terrific in a reading we just had for fun. And I said, we need to do this show. So I was like, are y'all down to just kind of do it independently? And luckily we had Bullard's support, and we had our wonderful sponsor, Austin Bennett's support, and we had the support of so many wonderful theater people here in town who donated and helped us make that happen. And it was the same here. There was a story to tell, and there was a play that spoke to me and to the cast, and that really drew us to do this.
And you really kind of worked the room in terms of,
Yeah.
of getting a good audience.
We certainly tried.
You certainly tried. So Saren, had you had any contact with the birds before? Had you seen the movie?
I had not. I have never actually been like a big horror person, but I've been acting for a very long time. And I've never done an independent production before. I did like a small production with Fresno State's experimental theater company right after like high school. So I haven't done anything really outside of it, aside from like a few company stuff. But yeah, no, I had heard of Misery. I was unable to see it, unfortunately. But when Diego had like approached me with the idea, I'd never heard about anything like that before, and I thought it was so cool. So I just wanted to be a part of it.
So Diego, most people are going to walk into this thinking of the Hitchcock film.
Yes.
How similar is the play? Was the play written before? Was the play written after?
The play was written in the early 2010s by an Irish playwright, Conor McPherson, who's, if theater people know him, they know him through The Where, or they know him through the Bob Dylan musical Girl from the North Country. So hopefully theater people will come in knowing that name. But yeah, it's not the Alfred Hitchcock story, but it's the story that inspired actually Hitchcock's film, which was by Daphne du Maurier back in 1952, I believe. She wrote this story, and it was a kind of a commentary on the post-World War II anxieties, and Hitchcock then adapted it in like the 60s, so it was around Cold War time, and there's always been that kind of tying thread of war and tying of allegories for war. And then Conor McPherson wrote this play in 2010, and it ties more back to Daphne's story, which was more about human relationship and connection.
And do you consider it part of the horror genre?
I'd say so. I'd say it's more psychological thriller than straight up horror. There are some horror moments in this production, I like to say, but it's more of a thriller, kind of more in the vein of Misery, actually.
Okay. So Saren, you were telling me that you kind of play an outsider who comes in and makes mischief or messes things up.
Yeah, she's I think a different character from the rest of them. She is kind of just doing whatever it takes to survive, which, I mean, you would expect anyone to do in a situation like this. And I think being so young compared to the other characters in the cast, she just brings like a different energy to the show that she doesn't flow as well with the others, which kind of messes things up. But it definitely brings a lot of entertainment to the show.
So Diego, I've heard that, dramas can be tough to put on. Comedies can be really tough to put on.
Yeah.
It seems like horror would be really tough to put on because you have to get that mood, that ambiance, that balance. What have you learned so far about the horror or the psychological thriller
It
genre?
is tougher than people make it out to be. You look at stuff like the movies just came out, Backrooms, and what was the other one? Obsession, thank you. And you watch them and you're like, how did they do that? These young people who just got a little bit of money to put on these shows and these movies, and they're some of the biggest hits in Hollywood. So it's definitely a tough challenge. Before this, I directed more, I directed Seussical and I directed God of Carnage, and those are more lighthearted kind of God of Carnage isn't lighthearted, but it's more comedy. And then I did Walt Disney, which was a kind of a dark comedy, so it was a blend of both, and then Misery was, I also consider a dark comedy. And so this one was definitely tougher because it's more drama, but the comedy comes in when it's the more human moments and they're enjoying being in each other's presence. So it has been actually very tough.
So there's a bunch of Fresno State students involved with this.
Yes.
What is that like?
It's wonderful. They're all just as passionate about theater as I am and as the rest of our department is. And so it was very fun to be able to contact them and say, hey, I'm doing Misery, I'm doing The Birds. Do you want to come design for me, or do you want to come act in it? It was really heartwarming to know that they were just as interested and wanted to be involved, and it's made this process really quite fun.
Saren, does it surprise you how much work it takes to put on a production like this?
I mean, it definitely has been a very long, sometimes grueling process. I think when you're approaching a show like this that can connect to like so many things that are happening right now, and when you're telling a story that can be like sensitive, it's definitely something that has been difficult for me, especially because the show is a drama and because it takes such an intense amount of focus and like sensitivity to each of the characters to really humanize them and tell the story. But I think that everyone has like done great work here. The process has been long, but it's definitely been rewarding. It's hard to believe that we're already here. Because you do it for so long, you think this is never going to end. But the end result is so rewarding, and I can't wait for audiences to come and see what great work everyone has done.
So this is one of those shows with a really short run.
Yeah.
You opened Thursday night, and the date?
Yes, so The Birds opens July 23rd on Thursday, and it at 7:30, and then we have a Friday at 7:30, and then we have 2 shows Saturday at 2 p.m. and 7:30.
So like I tell people, you have to if you want to support local theater, sometimes you have to be punctual.
Yes.
You can't wait for 2 or 3 or 4 weekends. This isn't like a movie that you can just catch whenever. No. You guys are only going to do
as
this
much as we may want it to be like a movie. Exactly. And we can keep running. We can only be here so long.
Exactly. And also just a shout out for your hard work, your creativity. Fresno is I think growing in terms of the number of different companies. Yes. And people trying out new and different things. I've never seen the Birds, so that's exciting in itself. And so I think people are ready to be a little scared.
Yeah.
Now notice we haven't talked about the actual birds. We want to keep that kind of a secret. This sort
if you want to see how they work,
stagecraft thing.
If you want to see how it works, you got to come see it. It's some of the coolest work with tech I've had in a show so far. Audiences are going to really enjoy that, and there's some great scenes involving the birds themselves, which I'm excited for people to see.
So Saren, are you pro-bird or anti-bird? Are you scared of any particular birds, or
of any particular birds? I actually have a huge fear of birds, which helps contribute to the show. I would say maybe owls. Actually, maybe owls and hawks. They're very big, and
they have
They're sharp claws, sharp beaks. The show definitely contributes to the fear a little bit, which I can draw from. I would, for the environment, pro-bird. Myself, anti.
Okay, well, on that note, thanks again, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back. We're talking to TMR's Doug Hoagland about his recent arts adventures, writing for the website. Thank you for being here, Doug. You've been a busy boy recently,
I have been.
Haven't you? One of the big events for August is going to be taking place at the Fresno Art Museum.
Yes.
It's opening of a new exhibition. What is it called and what is it about?
The name of the exhibition is Heralding, and it is a major exhibit of handmade craft. And it features more than 100 items from 81 artists. And the things in the exhibit are made from clay, wood, metal, fiber, glass, and mixed media.
So one of the kind of ideas behind this exhibit is these things all belong to one collector.
They do.
How did we get a hold of it, or how did that happen?
Well, Michelle Ellis-Pracy at the Art Museum has known Forrest Merrill of Berkeley, who these items are coming from his private collection. And it's really a coup for the Art Museum to get this exhibit. And I think it's a credit to Michelle's connections in the arts world.
And I know that she spent a lot of time up in Berkeley deciding what was going to go into the exhibition. Is there a piece or two that you've seen that you think people would be interested in?
There's a postcard that they sent out as promotional material for the exhibit. And there are 3 items that are really kind of both classical and there's a whimsy to them. One of them is kind of a red vase from ceramics, but it's very striking, partly because of the color. But then there's a wooden alligator that, to my eye, it looks like the alligator is smiling. And it just kind of captured my imagination and again made me smile. And I think you'll find that at the exhibit, that there will be items that people will want to study, and then there'll be things they'll look at and the whimsy will delight them.
So American arts and crafts, they're a real crucial part of this country's history.
Yes.
Is this exhibition celebrating them in particular?
Yes, and I think it's tied to the 250th anniversary of the country and celebrating that there are not only important documents and events in our history, but also the idea of handmade craft is something that goes back in our history and needs to be recognized and celebrated.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful exhibition. I know it runs for a long time. It opens
August 1st.
And
goes through January 10th.
Yeah, so that's
2027.
You'll have no excuse.
Exactly.
People will not have an excuse for not seeing this show. Well, great. So let's talk a little bit about Measure P. You spent a lot of time reporting on Measure P. We've spent a lot of time talking about Measure P. Is there anything to update people on?
Yes. So guidelines have been approved for the grants in the 3rd cycle, which covers the 2026-27 fiscal year that kicked off July 1st. So this year, the process now proceeds to potential applicants submitting an eligibility letter, which is due by 3 p.m. on August 15th. And if the staff at the Parks Department, and they're the folks now overseeing the Measure P arts grants, if they feel like an applicant is now eligible to apply, they'll get a link to an application. And those applications are due by 3 p.m. on September 30th.
So an extra step this time, and people will
Well,
need to
there
be
was
aware of
something
that.
similar in the second round where there was a requirement to get vetted before you actually filed an application.
Okay.
A little tweaking it a bit.
Okay. Moving on, you wrote a story recently that had a lot of impact, that lots of people are reading it, and it relates back to the play that we were talking about,
Right.
About Chase Stubblefield. Tell us the process. How did you land that interview, and what was it like to go through it?
So I read Heather's reviews. She's a very smart reviewer, and she talked about Chase being able to channel a lot of Oscar Levant's turmoil, his hopes for the future, and being a reporter, being nosy. I wondered, how is he able to do that? So I asked Chase if we could sit down, and one thing led to another. And in the course of that interview, he told me about issues in his own life involving mental health challenges and drug addiction that are not exactly the same as Oscar Levant, but similar enough that he is, in essence, playing a character while he is dealing with those issues in his real life.
Now, there are a couple of remarkable things about this show, which you saw over the weekend.
I've seen it twice.
You've seen it twice. One is that Oscar Levant was a world-famous pianist, and this character in the show ends up playing for 15 minutes.
Yes.
Did Chase look nervous as he sat down to play in the performance you saw?
Well, Chase plays Rhapsody in Blue, almost the entire version of it. On Saturday night, when I saw it for the second time, I really watched his face this time. Dan Pisano, the managing director at GCP, had told me that he had seen Chase the previous weekend and just felt like there was a great release, a personal release from Chase because of the issues he's dealing with as he played this piece. And I really watched his face on Saturday night, and I think I saw that same sense of him being lost in that performance, which is beyond, it's extraordinary. And just an intensity to his performance. And he plays it from memory. And that's a very complicated piece.
That is pretty amazing.
It is.
You know, and the other thing about the show is he really kind of bears his soul on stage. And you think about him doing that performance after performance, that takes a lot of discipline, energy, and also just courage to kind of open yourself up to the audience.
I would totally agree. And I also think he needs a major shout out for being willing to talk about his own journey as he's dealt with these issues.
I know that when you talked to him, he really talked about how theater can be a kind of a healing force in his life. And it's a remarkable story. It was a remarkable interview. And I know that we've gotten a lot of feedback on that. And I know that people are just flocking to this show because it's really something not to be missed.
Well, at both performances I've been at, he's received a standing ovation, and he just certainly deserves that. It's a remarkable journey.
Yeah. So, quickly, last topic. You took a trip to New York. You got to do it for the first time.
Yes.
You got to go to Broadway.
3 shows.
You wrote about that in the Munro Review,
I did.
and you wrote about the shows that you went to. Tell us about Death of a Salesman.
Absolutely remarkable. We saw it on the day, we saw a matinee that evening were the Tonys. Ori Metcalf, just, she's remarkable. I had not seen John Lithgow's performance. He won the Tony for Giant. But boy, Nathan Lane as Willie Loman, there was a point in the show where I found myself leaning forward, and because of action that happened on the stage between Nathan Lane and the actor playing his son, I literally jerked back in my seat. I was so in the moment. And that goes to the skill of the actors.
That's something you'll remember forever.
I will.
And it's one more example of how live theater can just have such a tremendous impact.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Doug.
Sure.
Thanks for stopping
Good to be
by.
here.
We'll check in again soon.
Okay.
And that wraps it up for this month's episode of the Munro Review on CMAC. Be sure to keep up online at munroreview.com for previews, giveaways, profiles, reviews, and more. A thank you to our guests, Doug, and our guests, Diego and Saren. And for all of you, please keep exploring and supporting the local art scene. We'll see you next time.